Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining us today. We wanted to look at the life and times of Narottama Das Thakur today to seek his blessings so that we can progress on our spiritual path. His appearance day today, and very important devotee of the Lord. So he had a strong connection with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though he didn't meet him personally. Once, when Gauranga decided to go from Puri to Vrindavan, he stopped in the village of Ramakeli to see Rupa and Sanatan. At that time, he began to shout in ecstasy, "Oh, Narottam, Narottam!" From this, the intimate devotee, especially Nityananda, knew that a great personality would soon take birth as Narottam, meaning topmost person. So Naro, man, Uttam, topmost. However, on this occasion, his ecstasy was far deeper. Nityananda asked him for the reason. Gauranga said that across the Padma in Keturi, Narottam will be born and he will be the recipient of his intense love, which Gauranga was going to deposit in the Padma, and that this great soul will soon appear in their lifetimes. Next morning, Gauranga went to bathe and deposited his love in the Padma, which overflowed. At that time, the personified Padma, understanding that she had to deliver the love to Narottam, appeared before Gauranga asking, how will she be able to identify the recipient of the love? Gauranga answered that when somebody enters your water and causes you to overflow, as I have made you feel, greatly or jubilant, he is the person. So, very interesting. This Narottam, who is he? So Gauranga left 1524. Narottam was born around 1520. So only 4 years beforehand. So fast forward to when Narottam became a teenager, Nityananda appeared to him in a dream. And he said, tomorrow as the sun begins to rise, you should take your bath in the Padma river. At that time, you will receive the totality of Gaura Prema, or love of God. When he woke, Narottam immediately complied with Nityananda's instruction. Entering the Padma, he felt himself undergo a vital transformation. Just then, Gauranga appeared before his eyes and affectionately embraced him. As their bodies merged, he felt Gauranga's very essence engulf his soul. It is said that at that moment, Narottam's natural dark complexion turned to molten gold, the color of Gauranga. So you can see the importance of this incredible personality. This place is called Prematali Ghat on the Padma River in Bangladesh, and pilgrims visit this holy place. On the banks of the Padmavati, in the town of Keturi, in the month of Magh, on the day of Shukla Panchami, which is today, 1520 AD, Sri Narottama Das Thakur took his birth. His father was King Krishnananda Dutt, and his mother's name is Sri Narayani Devi. And I believe Sri Narayani Devi was the recipient of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Mahaprasad. Very fortunate personality. The king's older brother was Purushottam Dutt, who had a son called Santosh. The wealth and fame of these two brothers was beyond compare. Seeing many auspicious omens surrounding the birth of his son, Krishnananda was very pleased and gave lavishly in charity to the Brahmins. The Brahmins, seeing all auspicious signs surrounding the child's birth, prophesied that the boy was a highly perfected soul and great personality by whose influence many people would be delivered. The king's son grew more effulgent and beautiful with each passing day. His bodily luster was just like molten gold. It's funny, he also turned into molten gold after he was embraced by Chaitanya. His eyes were large and shaped like lotus petals. His arms extended to his knees. He had a deep navel. These are all bodily symptoms of a Mahapurush, great personality. And all the local town people used to gather to take darshan of this beautiful and saintly child. The king's wife gave birth to such a wonderful son. She was floating in the ocean of ecstasy. She always kept the boy close to her and was always concerned for his well-being, caring for him constantly. He was very peaceful. Whenever his mother put him down, he would sit quietly. Within the ladies' quarters, the ladies used to nurture and care for the child with great ecstasy. The boy's Anprashan Samskar or grain giving ceremony was held. At that time, in order to ensure auspiciousness and a bright future for his son, Krishnananda gave much charity. The astrologer present on this joyful occasion noted all the auspicious signs on the child's body and predicted that the boy would be an illustrious person. This baby will be the greatest of men. Therefore, he should be called Narottama. So the festivities went on happily until Krishnananda tried to feed his son the rice, because his Anprashan, the first grains, were given to the baby. But to everybody's dismay, he refused to eat. They tried to make him eat, but he just wouldn't do it. So there was a lot of anxiety. And eventually the astrologer said, don't worry, this baby will not accept food unless it's first offered to Lord Vishnu. So the rice was then offered to Lord Vishnu and then again offered to the child. And he took it. He happily ate it. And everybody was pleased. From that day on, realizing the value of prasad, the king ordered only food which has been offered to Krishna should be given to my son. Although the worship of Krishna was customary in their family from the time of Narottama's birth, everyone became more attentive to the service of the Lord. He was an adorable boy and he endeared himself to everyone. Soon he was talk of the town. Just one glance at Narottama is sufficient to cool my mind and chase away all miseries. The other thoughts were, from every angle of vision, this prince is beautiful. I've never seen such a gorgeous boy. In this way, Krishna and the son was glorified throughout the town. Gradually, the day of his entrance into school approached. Everyone was astonished at his amazing intelligence. Simply by hearing a subject once from his gurus, he would commit it to memory. In a short time, he mastered the study of Sanskrit grammar, poetry, rhetoric, and became expert in many different scriptures. After the glorious incident at Padma River, he saw as useless any knowledge which did not promote Hari Bhajan, and soon lost interest in everything but Krishna consciousness. Even informing his parents, after they noticed a change in him, what had happened at the Ghat, requesting them if he can search for the Lord. The parents became, being concerned, called a spirit tamer to save the possessed boy, suggesting silly treatments. Day after day, Narottama began to think of how he could become free from family life and constantly engaged in the Lord's service. He was indifferent to all material enjoyment. Where most people usually like to play, he was uninterested in playing games. At this time, hearing the glories of Nityananda and Sri Gauranga from the lotus lips of the devotees of the Lord, his heart was filled with joy. Especially in Keturi, there was an old Brahmin called Das Thakur. He's very famous because he's written the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we very fortunately have an English translation by Srila Prabhupada. And hopefully if we finish the Bhagavatam, the plan is hopefully to go through the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was a genuine servant of Lord Krishna and loved Narottama deeply. He could not let a single day pass without seeing Narottama. Krishnadas Kaviraj was so powerful, by dint of his devotion, no one dared disobey him. Every day after completing his worship of Krishna, Krishnadas Kaviraj would visit Narottama, and Narottama would welcome him with wholehearted enthusiasm, humbly falling prostrate at his feet. Offering him a seat, he would then eagerly inquire about Lord Chaitanya and his associates. And Krishnadas Kaviraj happily narrated the pastimes of the Lord in these three parts, Adi, Madhya, and Antya. He went on to glorify the transcendental activities of Nityananda, Advaita, and all the devotees with such enthusiasm that even wood or stone would melt upon hearing his devotional narration. And Narottama was lost in the ecstasy of love for God. With eyes full of tears, he joyfully worshipped his Lord privately, oblivious to everything else. In this way, he lost all taste for mundane pleasures and could not bear to hear even topics relating to royal pleasures and properties, which was the main topic in their family. Aware of their son's growing apathy for material life, Krishnanda and Narayani were filled with anxiety and could think of no one else, nothing else. Finally, they decided to appoint someone to constantly watch over their son, but still they were unable to find peace of mind. Narottam's home became a prison for him. He longed to be free. Although he said nothing, he was constantly waiting for the opportunity to leave home. So this also sort of matches with, who's the other devotee? Is it Srinivas who wanted to run away from home? Who was that?
Raghunath.
Oh, yes, sorry, Raghunath Das Goswami. Yeah, well done. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised him, don't be like a monkey jumping from one tree to another. Just pretend to be a materialistic person at home, but always think of me. But here, Narottam didn't even need any advice. He would just he would just wait patiently. Every day he secretly pleaded desperately for the Lord's help. His body became covered with dust as he rolled on the ground, crying. Raising his arms in the air, he begged pitifully, Gauranga Nittai, Advaita, my Lord, please save me from this hell. If we had even one tiny little percent of Narottam Das's love for God, where would we be? One day, due to the desire of the Lord, Narottam fell asleep, and in his dream he saw Gauranga. His splendid beauty could not compare to gold, lightning, or anything else of this world. The beautiful curling hair hanging down his back could turn the minds of even the most virtuous women. His earrings shone brightly, and his lotus eyes were the trap of Cupid. So this is a description of Chaitanya. His face, smiling face, could easily defeat the effulgence of the moon, and the beautiful tilak on his forehead could capture one's breath. His graceful hands swept down to his knees, and how broad his chest was. Beautifully jeweled garlands hung around his conch-like neck, and his deep navel was finely shaped. His thin waist defeated even the lion. His knees looked like toppled banana trees, and his feet were more attractive than lotuses. How gorgeous was his threefold loincloth. Observing the beauty of Mahaprabhu, Narottam shed tears of love and fell at the feet of the Lord. Placing his feet on Narottam's head, Gauranga said sweetly, "Oh, Narottam, look at me. I cannot bear your tears. Don't worry. Go straight to Vrindavan. There you will be initiated by my dear devotee, Lokanath. He will happily pour the nectar of the Mahamantra into your ears. I have many plans which are to be served by you." Amazing, huh? Amazing dream. So in the dream, he saw Chaitanya on the banks of the Ganga in Navadvip. He was enjoying his pastimes with Nityananda, Dvaita, Gadadhar, Shivas, Swarup, and other associates as they engaged in Sankirtan, while the people of Navadvip witnessed their divine pastimes. Eager to inspect this beautiful scene, even Brahma, Shiva, and other demigods and goddesses mingled with the crowd in disguise. Even the animals and birds were charmed. Those who were born blind were suddenly able to see and rushed to observe the extraordinary Sankirtan performance. Seeing this wonderful fun, Narottam wept with joy, and seeing Narottam, Gauranga embraced Narottam and put him in the care of Nityananda and Advaita, who encouraged Narottam to go to Vrindavan. So this is all a dream, but actually it was happening. Narottam then woke up. He wept with joy as he began to see many auspicious signs indicating good fortune. In anticipation, he waited, hoping that the fortune moment would soon arise. After this, in order to understand how to become free from family life, Narottama Das began to think day and night of how he could go to Vrindavan. Narottama had prayed, Hari Hari, Kabe Haba Vrindavan Vasi. Oh Hari, when will I become a resident of Vrindavan? When will I serve the beautiful divine couple in Vrindavan with tears in my eyes? So if we had a little inclination of Narottama Das Thakur's desperation to go to Vrindavan, we would also be in the same mood. Seeing Narottam's indifference to all sense pleasure and his intense renunciation, Krishnananda and Narayani became even more vigilant to watch over him. Narottam saw that the difficulty involved in escaping were becoming more impassable than the Himalayas and thought he might never be able to go to Vrindavan. And he absorbed himself in worship of the holy feet of Gauranga, thinking only how to get the mercy of Sri Gaura Nityananda. He began to pray very earnestly for guidance from them. Then some messengers came from the rulers of Bengal, informing King Krishnananda that the ruler of Bengal wanted to meet with him. In order to meet with the ruler of Bengal, Krishnananda and his brother Purushottam set out on a long journey to the court of the ruler of Bengal. So that time, Narottama Das Thakur, he took advantage, thinking it was a good opportunity to leave home. That time, he secretly left his mother and his protectors, turned towards Vrindavan and began his journey to that great land. It was on the full moon day in the month of Kartik that Narottama Das Thakur left his family behind. And he had quite a long journey, passing through Bengal, found the road to Mathura, accompanied by pilgrims. Sometimes he would drink some milk or eat some roots and fruits along the way. But his hankering to see Vrindavan made his hunger and thirst go away. After 3 days, his feet began to blister. At one point, due to exhaustion, he lost consciousness. When he was in that state, Gauranga appeared to him in the form of a golden-skinned Brahmin, supplied a pot of milk for him to drink, but he didn't recognize him. He fell asleep, and because he was so tired. And then, as he slept, Rupa Goswami appeared to him in a dream and informed him, Gauranga has brought you that milk. Personally, you should drink it and proceed to Vrindavan. So this gave Narottama great assurance and enthusiasm. Amazing. So before leaving that area, however, his father had sent scouts to search for him. They found him. But his sweet words, he convinced the guards to let him go. And one of the guards even gave him money to continue his journey to Vrindavan. As he moved from place to place, he would hear the glories of Gaura Nityananda from the mouths of many devotees. In this way, he was always meditating about them. And as he walked and walked, he prayed to the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda. And as he has written, Ara Kabe Nitayachan, when will Nityananda show his mercy to me, free me from the world of birth and death? By his mercy, one may give up material enjoyment and purify his mind. In this way, by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, one can attain Vrindavan. In this way, walking, Narottama Das arrived in Mathura, and seeing the Yamuna, he offered many prayers. Remembering the names of 6 Goswamis headed by Rupa and Sanatana, he began to weep in ecstasy. Gradually, he came to Vrindavan itself and entered into that holy land. Upon reaching there, he went to the magnificent Radha Govindji temple built by Rupa Goswami. And there, everybody told Jiva Goswami, because at that time, Jiva Goswami was the main Purohit, the Goswami of a spiritual master. And they told him of a newly arrived effulgent personality who's showing all the signs of ecstatic symptoms of love of God. Of course, Jiva Goswami knew this is Narottama, he's calm. And they greeted him. He requested Narottama to serve Lokanath Goswami, who was very old. And he was always in great separation from Gauranga. He was always in pain. So anyway, he went to Lokanath Das Goswami and he asked him to accept him as his disciple. So Narottama was asked by Lokanath Goswami, okay, chant for a year and we shall see. Of course, Lokanath Das Goswami was very humble. He didn't initiate him. Anyway, Narottama Das Thakur would go in the middle of the night and clean up after Lokanath Goswami. And one time, Lokanath Goswami, he realized what Narottama Das was doing. So he felt great compassion on Narottama Das, and he initiated him on the full moon day of the month of Shravan as his disciple. And Narottama, of course, excelled in spiritual practice. One day he dreamt that the divine Vaishnavi asked him to serve under the Gopi Champaklata and made special milk for the divine couple. When he woke, he immediately ran to his guru, who confirmed that the divine person was Radha herself, informing Narottama of his eternal sweet service. So this is, he's of course one of the Manjaris and serving under Gopi Champaklata. And his service is providing milk to the divine couple. So Narottama would often go into trance and boil milk, which sometimes would boil over, and he would use his bare hands to stop the overflow. When he would come out of trance, his hands would be scorched. His meditation was very powerful. So Lokanath Das Goswami, he ordered him to study the Goswami scriptures under Jiva Goswami, together with Srinivasa Acharya, and later on Shyamananda. So these three were the first Sankirtan team, and they're very elevated personalities: Narottama, Srinivasa Acharya, and Shyamananda. And eventually Jiva Goswami sent them with the books of the Goswamis to go to Bengal. And these books were really very much treasured scriptures of the Goswamis. And they were given nice facilities to take the books to Bengal. And eventually, these books actually got stolen by some dacoits. And the ruler of that area, his name was Shri Birhambir. He eventually got hold of the books because the dacoits were working for him. And he realized, wow, these books are very important. And Srinivasa Acharya stayed back to find those books and recover them. In the meantime, Narottama, he went to his hometown, Keturi. And after being in Keturi, he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace to see, he met Ishan Thakur, who is the old servant of Sachimata, at the house of Jagannath Mishra, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived. He also went to Srivas Pandit's home, where he met Sripati and Srinidhi Pandit. And he met many devotees there, Shukambar, Brahmachari, and Damodar Pandit. He also went to Shantipur, where Advaitacharya's place, and he met his son, Achyutananda. He met Sridhar Chaitanya, and he also went to a place called Saptagram, where he met Janava Devi and Vasudha. Janava Devi at that time, because Nityananda had left, Chaitanya had left, she was actually the leader of the Vaishnavas. So that was she was really happy to see him. He blessed him very, very much. He also visited Jagannath Puri. He went to Ekachakra as well, to the holy place of Nityananda's birth. And finally, he went back to Keturi Gram. Actually, he may not have visited no, he did, yeah, he went to Jagannath. And at Keturi, they did an amazing festival. This was the first Go Punim festival. He initiated Santosh, who we talked about earlier. And in Keturi, what they did, they organized the very first Gaur Purnima festival. And they installed many, many deities. I think it was, 6 deities at that time. And this festival was humongous. It was really one of the most elaborately, in fact, it was because it was the first festival, it was really celebrated with great pomp. And Janwar Mata was in charge, presiding guru at that time. And also Srinivas came, Shyamananda came, many devotees came. And it was a very, very hugely successful festival. And there were all sorts of celebrations that took place, ceremonies that took place. They installed the deities, they served the Vaishnavas, and they sang so much. Now, yeah, they sang so much. And Narottama Das Thakur, he's very famous in the sense of he's written many bhajans, and he had a special style of kirtan. And this style of kirtan is described in one of the scriptures written after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, Bhakti Ratnakar. And it was a very unique style of bhajan, which was very endearing to the Supreme Lord. He inaugurated what came to be known as the Padmavali Kirtan, a dramatic singing technique that begins with the glorification of Mahaprabhu, gradually evolves to Radha Krishna Kirtan in a very beautiful way. And this is, I don't know whether that tradition still continues in Bengal. It may well do, but not sure. Anyway, this festival was hugely successful. And it was a 3-day festival, which was a milestone in Vaishnava history. So, and why was it so unique? Because the direct disciples of Gauranga, Nityananda, and Advaitacharya, they participated. It became an annual event. Different styles of kirtan were sung for the first time. Vaishnavas were gathered from all over the land, all over Bharat. And he was able to really look after these Vaishnavas very, very well. So he became very famous. And quickly he became the most famous Vaishnava guru, and he had disciples from all over the place, from all walks of life. But he wasn't born as a Brahmin. So there was the certain Brahminical class who wanted to defame him on the basis that Narottama was born in the Kayashta, Shudra's family. And they wanted to defame him. So they used a king called Raja Nasimha. They went to the king and they said, this Narottama Das Thakur is really upsurging the Brahminical class. Now, this king, he sort of he pampered the Brahmins, and he wrote to Narottama and he said, I'm coming to see you. I want to settle this matter. So they set off to see Narottama Das Thakur in wherever he was, Khaturi maybe. Now, there were 2 devotees who didn't like this idea because they know Narottama was one of the greatest. So they didn't like the idea that the king was coming with the Brahmins to come and defeat Narottama. So what they did, they set up a shop. Their name was Ganga Narayan Chakravarti and Ramachandra Kaviraj. They set up a shop, and when the party from the king was coming, they stopped at that shop, and at these shopkeepers, they started conversing in Sanskrit. So these scholars and the Brahmins, they started talking with these 2 shopkeepers, and they were really shocked by the knowledge level of these shopkeepers. And in fact, they were so articulate and so perfect in the Sanskrit that the king's party, they realized, actually, if these are the shopkeepers of where Narottama Das Thakur lives, and they're so articulate in their knowledge of Sanskrit and scripture, then what is Narottama Das Thakur like? Mm-hmm. So that they stopped. They didn't actually go any further. Eventually, Narottama Das Thakur, so the king had a dream that you had come, you were committing a great offense at the lotus feet of Narottama Das Thakur. So you should go and surrender to him, become his disciple. And that king, when he woke up, he realized this Narottama Das Thakur is very special. So he went to him together with all the other Brahmin Pandits, and everybody took shelter at the lotus feet of Narottama Das Thakur. So this was a very famous event. I didn't go through in any particular detail, but another time we can go through exactly what happened. It's really very fascinating. He spent years in the vicinity of Keturigram, cultivating devotees there. Govinda Kaviraj describes Narottama as a great king of prema, divine love, and Ramachandra as Narottama's minister. These two, Narottama and Ramachandra, spent much of their day studying and teaching Bhagavad Puran and the literature of Rupa Sanatana and the other Goswamis. So Ramachandra Kaviraj is, again, he sang Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Doya. So very special devotee. Narottama was a prince of wealthy estate. So he was known in his young age, in his youth, as Rajkumar. And so he had the opportunity to study with great scholars of his day. And he took advantage of that. He became very eloquent and prolific. He conveyed all the tenets of Gaudiya Vaishnavism through the medium of poetic language. So this book here, Prarthana, hopefully at some point we will, or rather Karuna may well go through these songs for the pleasure of Radha and Krishna. 33 Bengali songs divided into 258 verses, arranged in 55 sections. And he dealt with so many different areas: prayer, self-criticism, mental training, spiritual happiness, the agony of the soul in separation from Krishna, superiority of Vaishnava, topmost aspiration, guru-disciple, residence in Vrindavan, importance of aestheticism, and the humility of Vaishnavas. There's also other sections, 27 sections, focus on Manjari Sadhana. So this is really a really important book, because Manjari Sadhana is regarded to be the highest level of Krishna consciousness. He also wrote Prema Bhakti Chandrika, a lengthy poem, 120 verses, divided into 9 sections. Prabhupada was fond of singing Narottama Das Thakur's poetry and quoting him in his lectures, which attested to the abiding value and relevance of Narottama's achievement. He serves Srimati Radharani as Vilas Manjari. His samadhi is in Radha Golokanandan temple courtyard. And in that courtyard, there's many samadhis. There's one of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lokanath Das Goswami. There's maybe, 20, 30 acharyas there. And you can sit there and do kirtan, chant, such a very beautiful atmosphere. Yeah, we got the picture of, this is the samadhi in that courtyard in Radha Gokulananda temple. And this is Narottama Das Thakur's worship of Shaligram in Keturi in Bangladesh. So these are the Shaligram deities. And Lokanath, he wrote a pranam mantra for Lokanath Das Goswami, which goes as follows.
Srimad Radha Vinodaika Seva Sampat Samavitam Padmanabha Ajam Shrimal Lokanath Prabhum Bhaje. I worship the lotus feet of Sri Lokanath Prabhu, the son of Sri Padmanabh. He is a storehouse of single-minded service to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Vinod.
That's it. Narottama Das Goswami ki
Jai.
jai. So anybody, anything they'd like to add? Maybe they've read something about, you've read something about Narottama Goswami, or I mean, Narottama Das Goswami, Narottama Das Thakur, or any questions?
Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Did Srila Prabhupada say that he is a seventh Goswami, something like that?
That was Bhakti Vinod Thakur.
That was
Bhakti Vinod Thakur, yeah. That's right. For Bhakti Vinod, he said seventh Goswami.
Bhakti Vinod Thakur, not Narottama Das.
Not
No.
Narottama Das Thakur, no.
Okay.
But he sang a lot of his songs.
Yes.
And the one song that Karuna sang just before we started, Nitai Palakam, that's Narottama Das Thakur. He
Okay.
wrote that.
Okay.
So,
Hare
thank you, Naniman.
What a unique person, isn't he?
Extraordinary.
I wonder sometimes whether such people are being born now, these days.
Really,
Or
yeah.
so much into the ecstatic service, and then Gaurang Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu come in their dreams. I'm
True,
sure.
true. Yeah. I mean, they obviously Prabhupada and, his godbrothers, many of them very elevated personalities. But Kali Yuga, advances, it's probably harder to find such amazing souls.
Yeah, he was amazing personality. Yes.
I'm sure there are some of these souls in Vrindavan which are hidden. We don't really know much about them.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because some Babajis living in Vrindavan is so austere and so connected with the dham and the leelas and everything.
They keep themselves hidden.
Yeah. Even now.
And also we are not qualified at this present stage to meet them, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. Even if we came across them, we wouldn't
wouldn't know.
recognize them.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Very nice.
Very good. Yeah. Thank you. Naniman. All right. Anybody else would like to share anything?
Yes, Prabhu. When
Yes.
Narottama Das Thakur was singing bhajans, Lord Chaitanya and all the associates would appear in the kirtan.
Amazing. And are you ready?
Ready for?
Karuna, singing
Ready for?
Narottama Das Thakur. You nearly done Bhakti Vinod Thakur.
Yes, Prabhu. I'm looking forward for it.
Yeah, of course you are.
Yeah.
You are amazing. Very good. Very good. Yeah, we're looking forward to it as well, because Bhakti Vinod Thakur is such a big accomplishment, trying to go through all the songs. And now Narottama Das Thakur. I think that if you like, you could do that as your next
Project.
yeah.
Your mercy, Prabhu. And Mataji's
Yeah,
mercy.
right.
Mercy of Lord Nityananda.
Yeah. Okay, Narottama Das Thakur ki jai.